Welcome back to the podcast Under Your Bed, everybody. Today we are reviewing X 2022. Sitting on the other side of the screen there is my cousin Taylor,
guys.
your hostess. I am CJ, your host. Woo! And if you don't know, X 2022, it's about a group working on an adult film get more than they bargained for when their elderly hosts take an interest.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I'm all for the elderly getting involved, but maybe not
in this way. No, different.
So hit us up with some cast and crew here.
Yeah,
Taylor.
honestly, so this is a very, very stacked cast. Obviously, it's a new release, so we're seeing a lot of new horror talent, which is so cool. So kind of our like more newer but definitely securing their spots as Scream Queens. We have Jenna Ortega, who freshly coming off of the new Scream. She's obviously in the Wednesday series. You've got Mia Goth, who was just in Suspiria. She just did Pearl and is going to do Maxine. So stoked about that. But then we have some really fun folks. So Brittany Snow taking a very hard turn from her like Pitch Perfect days to doing this role, which I dug so hard. You've got Kid Cudi in this, who's like making his foray into horror, which is really cool, and I just really enjoyed seeing him acting because I love him as a singer. So cool.
That was rad. I had no idea on first watch.
No, honestly, I don't think I caught that the first time, and then I was like, oh god, why does he look so familiar? And then I looked it up and was like, you're an idiot.
It's the fro,
Yeah,
yo.
That's what it was. We also have Martin Henderson, who I think is probably best remembered as the ex-husband in The Ring. You've got Owen Campbell is a newcomer. I'm not as familiar with him. He's playing RJ. And then kind of bringing up our last like two big cast members.
But shout out to Crank Yankers on that one.
Oh yeah, he did many episodes of that. So Stephen Uri,
that's fantastic.
He's done a ton of horror stuff, which is so much fun. But he's also like been like orcs in The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. He's also been in Deathgasm and Ash vs. Evil Dead, so I dig it. And then we also have our sheriff is played by James. Oh, I'm gonna butcher this. How do you think you say that last name? Galen?
Galen.
I'm gonna go with that. Go with it. Who's also an Ash vs. Evil Dead alum. So really fun. Tons of horror folks involved in there, which is really cool. And a lot of people you wouldn't expect to see in a horror movie,
stacked.
which I love. So it's a good mix.
I know.
Good mix in there.
It is. And so this is directed by Ty West. He's done The Innkeepers, House of the Devil.
Yes.
Of course, the sister film to this, the prequel Pearl, which I haven't seen yet. Taylor's going to fill us in on that.
Really good, guys. We'll get into it later.
He wrote it. He also helped edit it with David Kajvarov. I'm probably slaughtering that, but
I wouldn't have done any better.
He's pretty solid, right? Underwater, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, the 100. He's been around. Composed by Tyler Bates, Guardians of the Galaxy, Dawn of the Dead, Atomic Blonde. He's been out there. The score was great.
I think Chelsea Wolfe is the one who did the moaning type sounds to it, like the vocals. She did the vocals for that one, which is kind of cool. Nice integration working together.
And this is a film that had awesome cinematography done by Elliot Rocket. He's coming off of Grimm, The Innkeepers, House of the Devil, also Pearl,
might be friends,
some overlaps there in crew. They might know one another, as DPs and directors often do. And then some dope effects by Weta Workshop and Scale Studios, and they did a very solid job. I thought
they crushed it. I loved it. It was very, very much the thing that we love, which is primarily practical, with just some overlays of the CGI, which is exactly what you want to see. That's an effective use. And I mean, honestly, the effects, I think there's a lot of strong points to this movie. I don't want to say that that's the only thing, but the effects were something I noticed like immediately, being like, these are incredible. Like, so good.
Yeah, definitely agree. So I think, for the spoiler-free section here, there's just a lot to enjoy in this movie. I don't have many things to be upset about, but it wasn't like something that I'm really blown away by on all levels. I think some of the strengths were acting, cinematography, editing was doing interesting things, but I didn't think it always hit. But it was just a very, I think it had a very strong style and knew what it was, and for a film with $1 million budget, I thought it was crushing it.
It looks so much more expensive. Can I just say, like, it looks so much more expensive than that. I really, really enjoyed this movie. It's so weird. It's like the end of the year, and I now am we're actually in the new year now, and now I'm just getting to all my 2022 horror films, and it's definitely top tier for me in terms of what I watched this year. It's really cleanly made. It looks really good. The acting is really good. The music emphasizes everything that's going on thematically. There's a lot going on there too. It's just it's a movie that I think you get more and more out of with each rewatch, which is something that I just think is so important for like a watchable movie, is that you're discovering new stuff kind of each time. That's, to me, the hallmark of you did a good job. So I've enjoyed it with each rewatch. I've gotten something new out of it. I've been able to see a bit more. The prequel certainly put stuff into like more context even. So what like who would have thought we would have had this like MCU universe type building in horror? Obviously The Conjuring and whatever did it, but I'd say to a lesser degree than what this is doing. So it's just kind of dope to see a movie doing that.
Yeah, I love it. This feels like a movie that you could throw on like any time and enjoy watching. You could watch it with friends, significant other or something. You know, it definitely has its like sex, because obviously the characters in the movie are shooting a porn, so there's that might not be for all audiences, but
never feels distasteful.
It's not overly gratuitous. Yeah, it doesn't, and even the filmmaker in the movie is like, I'm shooting it cinematically.
It's avant-garde.
This isn't just a exactly. So there's and then they also play with that like 8mm film feel a lot, bouncing back between the two formats of digital and the film you see on camera, which is pretty fun. So that there's something interesting happening at all times on screen, and the acting just drives it home.
So good. And honestly, there's just so much to get into. So I think we want to keep our spoiler-free section as tight as possible, because we really want to get in the nitty-gritty of it. So I think, like, in terms of monsters under your bed, in terms of scares, I think this is like a really interesting one, because
it is.
It's weird because thematically, I think it's actually scarier than maybe the movie is. Like, the idea of aging and becoming less sexually desirable is a reality that every human will inevitably get to, and it's scary though. It is, like, that's the thing. That's what I like about this, is it is very complex and it's very real, because it's not like you can escape that fate by any means. But I think, like, that idea is actually maybe scarier than the movie itself. I don't think it's trying to be, like, scare the pants off of you scary. Do you know what I mean? So I feel like they accomplished exactly what they were trying to do, and make you think about things after you're done with the movie. But it then leaves you in this kind of murky, like, well, where does that put me rating-wise in terms of something that's scary? So that's my long-winded intro. What is your... I'm going to go with you first. I'm deferring to you first. What's your monsters under the bed? Because I'm actually really struggling with this one.
Yeah, I actually have to be a little hard on it, because it sort of landed at 2 monsters out of 4 under the bed for me. I thought there were some great surprises in this movie. Only like 1 or 2 jump scares I can recall.
Yeah, and, not many.
The gore wasn't super gratuitous. There were a couple suspenseful moments. And I guess, sure, some of the gore was a little gratuitous, right? But once or twice I felt was a little cheesy.
Oh my God, I am stoked to get into that because I don't agree.
Yeah.
Like, I'm excited.
Yeah. So we just got to, I don't know, I'm landing at a 2. How about you?
I'm going to go with that. I'd maybe give it the half just because, again, I think it's something that you think about after the fact, and that reality is very scary. But again, I don't think the movie was really going for this. You're going to like pee your pants while you're watching it. I think it's more of there's a slow burn element to it. You're really getting to know the characters. You're really getting to understand everyone's motivations. So it's not just driven by the horror the entire time. There's a story being told, and that can be a detriment to scare factor, like in any movie. But I always appreciate when it's done. So I'm going to bump it the half just because I think the setup was so good and I appreciated the movie so much. But I definitely wouldn't say this is a scary movie by any means. You're not going to be hiding at night or anything like that.
Fair enough. I just want our audiences to know, while I'm typically more generous in all the ratings, Taylor is the only one that's out there giving halvesies. So I have been true to no halvesies. Maybe I sort of copped out on one.
But I'm so harsh. I gotta give it a half once in a while just to,
All filmmakers out there appreciate it. Thank you. So overall rating, Taylor, where do you land?
It's a solid 3 for me, honestly. I really enjoyed this movie. Like I said, I've rewatched it a couple times now just for the pod, but I've gotten more out of each viewing. Again, there's so much going on thematically. The acting is very solid. The effects, very solid. Music, very solid. There's clearly a vision to this film. I feel there's a vision to this film. It's a commentary on filmmaking, a commentary on horror and audience members of horror. So I always enjoy that without it feeling so on the nose. And I think they rode that line very well. It's very cleanly made. I just really enjoyed this movie a lot. I think it, like I said, top tier for me of the year. So I'm going to give it a solid 3. It's just not enough to push it all the way to a 4 for me. It's not, again, you've got to be Citizen Kane for me to really get there. So it doesn't happen often, but what's your end here?
Don't think Citizen Kane is the only film that deserves a 4-star rating.
No, of course not. It's just the go-to.
But this is a solid 3 in my book as well. There were a couple risks that were being taken that I felt didn't quite hit. Keeping it from a 4, both in editing and sort of some of the character choices.
I'm excited to get into this.
I'll redact a little and say maybe like 1 or 2 gore moments and or death moments. So solid 3 for me. Go watch it. It's a fun film. You will enjoy it. There's something to take away as a filmmaker. There's something to take away as just a horror audience member.
I love that. I think that's an important one we gloss over sometimes is the watchability of it. And I think you're entirely right. What is fun about this movie is you could watch it in a group and you can watch it alone and it works. So I think that's fun. Not all movies can accomplish that. So that's very solid pick up there.
So everybody stick around for a cocktail and our deep dive critique because we're gonna have some fun with this one.
Welcome to the podcast Under Your Bed. There'll be drinks, critique, and perhaps a few murders. You're all invited, but once the podcast has begun, there's no way out. The ghosts are waiting, so won't you join me for the podcast Under Your Bed?
Yes, darling, open wide. Yeah, get in there now.
That's my best 70s porn boy. That's all I got.
This was actually a Christmas present. Shout out to the father-in-law. Little
my God,
8mm cartridge film camera. Yeah, I've been playing around with some 8mm action. I'm telling you, it has changed everything for me. I've been playing with this so much, and I love it. So,
that's so
if anyone wants to
cool.
join me on a farm, I'm going to shoot a little indie film. And everyone's welcome to join.
Are you staying with an elderly couple, perchance?
Just this sweet couple I found online. Don't know how old they are. They said there's a room vacant. So
I say go for it. It sounds like what could go wrong?
nothing. Well, in order to get through my filmmaking excursions, I'll need a stiff drink. And today we're sipping on some Sex on the Farm. I gotta hand it to you, Taylor. You nailed it on this one.
I mean, I think we really have to. I know, actually, this was like, I had to do a lot of digging weirdly to find this, and I was kind of shocked it wasn't the first thing that popped up. Like, if you look up X 2022 cocktail or X inspired cocktail, it's not the first one that comes up, which is very weird. That's always my go-to. Is there something that was made specifically for a movie? And most often the answer is no. But once in a while we stumble upon something great like this where a YouTuber actually made a cocktail specifically for this. This is by the Martini Shot. I highly recommend it. I mean, you give the audience a go about what we're drinking exactly.
Sure. I mean, it's a tasty sipper. It's 2 ounces whiskey, got some schnapps splashed in, some crème de cassis or Chambord, if you will.
Chambord.
Little orange juice and lemonade. It's an easy drinker and an easy make whiskey cocktail.
Honestly, and way better than Sex on the Beach.
Yeah. It almost tastes like, because of the orange juice, maybe like a tequila sunrise with whiskey, almost like you're almost missing a little grenadine. It's like tequila sunrise, but
right. I feel like isn't that honestly, with the Sex on the Beach too? Is the grenadine bit? But I love, like we've said it many times. Too much grenadine on the cocktails we've had. We got so jazzed to see someone not using it.
Yeah. So thank you, Mr. Martini Shot.
Much appreciated.
But that being said, you're in the hot seat today, Taylor. So
let me take a sipper.
Yeah.
Sex on the Farm.
Delicious.
I don't hate it, and honestly, that peach brandy is not something I've ever used in my life, but really good and smells amazing.
I think that has its applications.
All right, so we open on law enforcement investigating the aftermath of an apparent massacre, and then we cut back to 24 hours earlier, where we meet our porn industry protagonist, star Maxine, her fiance/producer Wayne, co-stars and sometimes lovers Bobby Lynn and Jackson. We have our cinematographer and director RJ and his reserved quote-unquote church mouse girlfriend Lorraine. The group head out to a out-of-town farmhouse to shoot The Farmer's Daughter, hoping it's going to become the next Debbie Does Dallas. Anyone familiar with 70s porn? I don't know.
I hope that's a real thing. I didn't even think of it.
It is. Debbie Does Dallas is a real thing.
Now. That's awesome. Love it.
I only know that from watching Lovelace is probably like the only reference point I have to that. But yeah, you know me, I'm just a vintage connoisseur of porn. Just always looking for these 70s quality. Yeah. Right when it was good.
They don't make it like they used to.
Oh my God. All right. So when they arrive, they're greeted by one of the house owners, an elderly and crotchety old man named Howard. And it's clear that Wayne has been less than honest about the reasons for the group's stay. While the shoot commences, Maxine decides to... It's like the opposite of what you should do in any horror film, but she decides to skinny dip while unknowingly being watched by Pearl, Howard's wife. Maxine avoids becoming an alligator's lunch, but isn't lucky enough to avoid an awkward encounter with Pearl, who discusses fading beauty and lost dreams while getting too close for Maxine's comfort. Like, really not comfortable with those side grays on the boob. We
all have one of those uncles or...
Yeah. Maxine returns to the shoot as soon as possible and impresses everyone with her quote-unquote X factor, including a peeping Pearl. A sexually charged Pearl attempts to make love to Howard, but he rebuffs her, citing concerns for his heart. After the shoot, the group discusses sex, love, and working in the sex industry. The conversation emboldens Lorraine, who asks to be in the film, and this is something that RJ immediately objects to, but is clearly outvoted by everybody on the set.
Go RJ, get it, girl.
I know, right? RJ, heartbroken after filming his girlfriend, elects to leave. Before he can, though, he runs into Pearl, who tries to seduce him. After being sexually rebuffed again, Pearl stabs RJ repeatedly, and so severely that she nearly decapitates him. Lorraine awakens to find that RJ is missing and enlists the help of Wayne. Lorraine unfortunately runs into Howard, who tricks her into the basement and locks her in. While searching for an escape, she discovers the body of a man who is being kept enslaved by the couple. Very upsetting, and that is like the poster image of Lorraine screaming, so you kind of gotta dig it. Meanwhile, oh, poor Wayne. Wayne meets his demise in the barn after Pearl stabs him via pitchfork to the face, and she does a double tap with the pitchfork as well. Jackson awakens after hearing noises outside and runs into Howard, who claims that Pearl is missing. While helping, Jackson discovers a car slightly submerged in water, and you've got to dig that Psycho reference. At least I did. As the search occurs, Pearl strips down, gets into bed with Maxine, and begins to grope her. This action eventually awakens Maxine, and her scream sends Pearl out the door and wakes up Bobby Lynn. Howard accosts Jackson, claiming that he's trying to entice his wife, and Jackson dismisses the quote-unquote old-timer, and Howard promptly shoots and kills him. R.I.P. Kid Cudi. Sad days. Back in the basement, Lorraine attempts to escape, but is quickly thwarted when Howard returns and breaks her hand with, like, the butt of his gun, and I wanted to cry a little. I'm just going to throw that out there. I hate hand stuff. That's... Oh,
that was solid graphics there.
Solid, but horrifying. Bobby then goes searching for her missing friends, and she finds the naked Pearl on the dock. Assuming that Pearl is suffering from some kind of episode, she goes to assist her. Unfortunately, her help is rewarded with a slap in the face and some slut-shaming from Pearl. Pearl then pushes Bobby into the water, and she states, as Bobby states, it's not her fault Pearl isn't happy. Seconds later, an alligator that we saw earlier attacks and kills Bobby. Whew, R.I.P. Bobby. Pearl and Howard meet back at the house and discuss the death toll, and the two finally have sex while Maxine, who is unfortunately under the bed, is able to sneak away at that point.
That's a bad night.
She's having a rough day. Maxine makes it out, but turns around when she hears Lorraine screaming. She gets Lorraine out of the basement and pleads for her to be quiet, as you should be in that kind of horrifying situation. However, Lorraine yells that she hates everybody and it's all their fault, and as she makes a break for the door, she promptly gets shot in the face by Howard. A death twitch... Yeah, I mean, we would not see her die in a movie these days, but yes, in this for sure. So death twitch from Lorraine gives Howard an aforementioned heart attack, and Maxine uses this opportunity to get the truck's keys. Howard ends up dying, and Pearl attempts to shoot Maxine, but she misses, and the kickback from the gun sends her flying to the ground, breaking her hip in the process. Maxine hops in Howard's truck while Pearl admonishes her, slut-shaming all the way. Maxine, who at this point is totally fucking done with the situation, backs over her head, causing it to explode like a fucking watermelon. Maxine drives off, and we return to the film's beginning, where it's revealed that Maxine is the daughter of a TV evangelic. What do you call him? Evangelicus? That's not the word. Evangelist! Oh, I've been out of the church scene for a while, guys. The investigators find the... It's been a minute. The investigators find the camera and speculate on its contents, with one remarking, by the looks of everything, one goddamn fucked up horror picture. And that is the end of X.
I love it. That is a great final quote there. I got to admit,
it's so good. I love that ending. I love that
quality.
ending. 100%. So is that Jenna Ortega scream. That was obviously like poster quality, trailer quality. You gotta respect.
Yeah, and FYI, this is like probably more revealing of my viewership, but that wasn't RJ in the basement. I just assumed it was RJ's dead body, and so it was some other dude, and that it was his VW in the water.
And so Jackson is taking a drink of milk, and this is via like the trivia page. I clearly didn't come to this on my own. I would never claim that I was clever enough to find this the first time around. But I guess that Jackson is taking a drink of milk, and there's a missing picture on the side of that guy. So they have kept. I don't like the term. Classic. I don't like the term sex slaves, but that's clearly like what they've been doing for quite some time, just based on how they operate and how they talk about things. Like this has clearly been going on for a fucking minute.
Right. I mean, I just assumed that based on the fact that they had chains there and like available for use, right? Thinking that it was RJ.
Oh no, because he's on the ground and his head is like
super gone.
Up. Yeah, so I don't think you're not going to use...
The body was kept... And that makes more sense, because I was like, how does that work for her? Just going to leave that one there.
Real person, yeah. I guess we're on this topic right now, but I like that we have a very unassuming, theoretically speaking, pair of killers, but then there's also this, like... extra layer to them that makes them motivated in a way that is grossly somewhat and I say this in the most fucked up way, but in the most like they're somewhat sympathetic and somewhat understandable in that how they've been treated, how the world treats the elderly, how undesirable you become the older you get, that there's like a building resentment, and it just kind of fuels the reason for what they're doing. And again, not that makes any of it okay, but I think it's really cool to have a motivation. Yeah, right. I think it's good to have a clear motivation, though. I mean, what did you think? What was that turnaround like for you, I guess?
I loved it, because we all have lengths we'll go to for our loved ones. Hopefully not that far, but
for sure.
You know, like what length are you willing to go to satisfy your partner or give them satisfaction?
Make them happy,
and that's a theme throughout, right? Like even with RJ and Lorraine,
yep.
Are you willing to be on camera and have an experiment? Are you willing for your significant other to be on camera and do something like that? Like, there's very interesting themes about like what lengths are you willing to go to. Some are on one side, some are on the other side. So,
there's an interesting dynamic there too. With I think just if we're on the couples page of like, I like that Bobby and Jackson are like very free. They're obviously like they're a couple, but they're also not a couple. And there's this very like free exchange of love between the people who are in the sex industry and but also that like they have a very clear, well, the sex work is sex work, and that isn't my relationship. Like that's a different thing. And I think that's really cool. To see throughout, and then to have the extra couple, like you said, RJ and Lorraine, kind of be on the outside of that, then brought into that and see what that dynamic looks like and how it doesn't work for him. And it's just, there's a lot going on like in this movie with everybody, which is really telling to how well the characters are written.
Yeah, I want to dive more into characters because they are very rich and a lot of fun. I'll be honest, I was trying to figure out like the first 5-10 minutes of this film, like, or at least by the time he got on screen, I was like, who is Wayne played by Matthew McConaughey? I was like, for sure that's Matthew McConaughey. No, it's not.
Martin Anderson.
It was just
I know he does look like him in this.
He's got that look and that like swagger, but I I actually like loved his character. This guy that's like this entrepreneur that's trying to break free, and this artist that wants to make it at any cost and is willing. I mean, just like the classic filmmaker in a nutshell. Just, I will succeed. Damn it, we will do this.
Oh, 100. But I feel like in a lesser quality horror film, Wayne would be a creepy dude, and he is never that. And I really love his character, especially when there's the scene after Lorraine declares that she wants to be in the movie, and he's like, well, Lorraine's not the same as Bobby and Maxine, and he's like, hey, motherfucker. And I love that he defends the girls and is like, no. Like, don't even try to pull this move with me. I love that. Yeah. I love that he's not creepy with Lorraine when she wants his help. Like, he's literally in his skivvies, and it could have been, like, in a dumber horror film, he would be perving on her, but, like, he's like trying to make a move. Okay, I'll help you.
Yeah.
Like, but he's not. He's, like, a really solid guy, actually, and I think that's what sets this movie apart from a lot of its predecessors, is that it's able to make each character a fully functioning human.
Yes, definitely agree with that. And especially when it comes to what's the old lady's name? Pearl. You know, that is one fucked up but interesting old lady. You know, you have to sympathize with her. You can't. You know, she had like a time. She wants to feel young and beautiful. Like, as we all age, I still feel this way. My body ain't keeping up with the way I feel. I still feel like a young man, and I'm starting to creep into my middle age here for sure. No denying it. So I sympathize with you there.
Oh, it's like when she wants to have sex with her husband, and she dresses up, and it is actually really heartbreaking. And it's not that his reason is invalid. It's clearly like a very valid rationale for why he's not doing it, and he clearly loves her in the most fucked up capacity possible. But it's really sad to watch her get rejected, sexually speaking, by someone she loves and who loves her, and simply because of the process of age. And that's like very, very grim. Right. That's actually one of the most grim concepts in the entire film.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Now, where it starts to go a little astray for me, at least, is like, I don't know if I needed this backstory of her as a dancer. You know, like it felt like, sure, that's her like in her prime, but then when it like she started like reliving these moments, like dancing after murdering RJ and stuff, it kind of started feeling a little goofy and hokey to me. And I was like, why did she have to do that? Like, have it there, but don't start dancing after you murder some fucker. Like, all of a sudden she became more like abstract instead of a real person.
I feel like, to me, just in this as I'm coming from it on the other side, I guess, is it's just that juxtaposition between her and Maxine, where Pearl is past her prime, past her opportunities. All the doors are closed, you know, theoretically and in real life to her, and where Maxine is coming into her prime as this, like, you know, they both want to be stars, but one is actually able to achieve it because she has the quote unquote X factor, and one didn't have it and didn't make it. And so I feel like it's just to kind of drive home the point that these characters are who may have been on similar paths to start, but definitely diverged in terms of, like, again, you've got the star quality, you're going to make it, versus Pearl, who didn't have it but has the dreams and aspirations that a lot of people have.
But my point is that theme, that point got across on screen without having to, like, literally dance and celebrate murdering somebody.
I feel like all she was doing, though, is, like, so her life has been filled with no's, no's, no's. And RJ sexually rebuffing her is another no. And so when she's able to take that power back in a sense, like, and kill him, which is like not how you get a power dynamic usually or how you achieve things, but that's how Pearl did it, that she kind of went back to this moment of when she maybe did have control and whatever. And it's this very short moment of her putting her hands up and hearing the music, but of this moment of going back to her younger days or when things felt possible or when opportunities were there. And that's all that was for me, was reliving that moment of when something could have existed. That's all that it kind of was to me, just for me.
Look at me, so young and free, murdering.
Yeah, well, if you watched Pearl, she was hitting it young. So, I mean, like...
All right,
yeah.
so see, that's where I don't have the backstory because I've not watched the prequel to this yet.
Yeah,
I'm definitely going to because of what I saw in this film, knowing that they were on a roll, hit their stride, and kept going. So I definitely am looking forward to watching that. Now,
oh yeah, it just gives you a lot more context.
Absolutely, a relationship we have to talk about, of course, is Maxine and Pearl.
Yes, oh my god,
I loved it as like a theme in the movie.
Yes,
and as like this kind of central juxtaposition and crux of like youth and sexuality and haves and have-nots and what drives people internally. So where are your thoughts?
I mean, to be honest, to have Mia Goth play both characters is such a fucking smart decision in terms of like getting your theme driven home in the hardest way possible. Like,
that's beautiful.
It's so smart. And if I had not known going into this movie that she was playing Pearl, I do not think I would have recognized her at all. I wouldn't have caught that. So
over here, that's me on this side of the fence.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, what? That's Mia Goth again? Are you kidding me? I had no idea.
Which also goes to show how good those prosthetics were, though, because it didn't look like somebody put in aged makeup. It literally looked like an elderly person. So, like, congrats. She got the movements down well, like, very... And actually, same with Stephen Uri, who plays Howard. He was aged up quite a bit as well. Like, he's not... Yeah. He's an older dude, but he's not an old dude, so...
He ain't anywhere near that.
They both did a great job. Yeah. Oh my god. Well, you should see him as an orc. He's way fucking uglier as an orc. But I think that's really cool that they did that. And
that
it just
was
adds
another
to
part.
The theme.
That was one part that I thought in terms of effects that I was a little cringy on. Was
really?
I get making them old, but they were like so like gnarled, and I get
but they're like 1920s hard-ridden old.
Yeah, I mean,
and they've been murdering people for a long fucking time as well. I think that has to age you a bit.
So maybe it's accurate, but it felt when I first watched it like a little exaggerated, and I just felt like you could make the same movie without them being as exaggerated, without the effects being so aggressive. And like, they didn't have to be so ugly, quote unquote. That was just one of those things that I was sort of like,
I mean, it could be wrong, but I feel like if you're involved in murder and mayhem and that's your life, that ages you in kind of an uglier way than maybe like, it just as a thematic point, like maybe that you're, but who knows? But again, he's like in he's in World War II as a young gent, so he's not a young dude. She's not a young lady. So I feel like they're kind of at the end point of their life.
Oh, I guess he was in a photo. That's right. Never mind.
Yeah, it's in a it's very mild.
I imagine that gets explored in Pearl, the prequel.
Well, what's crazy is Howard is in it for like a solid 10 seconds of the movie, which is pretty wild.
Oh, wow, okay.
So yeah, mild spoiler on Pearl, but Howard is really not in the movie. It's primarily Pearl's movie, but I think having her play the dual characters was a really good move, actually, and I have to imagine it really helped her sell both of those characters because they're very opposite sides of a coin. I mean, in a way, they're very much the same person. But again, that like the X factor that Maxine clearly has changed her. I mean, who knows? We'll see with the Maxine movie. Who the fuck knows what's going to happen? But her trajectory is very different than what Pearl's was, of this wanting to be a star but didn't have it, where Maxine wants to be a star and does have it. Because obviously everybody's watching her and is like, oh my God. So clearly there's something going on there. And they're just that connection that the two have, but how polar opposite they are at the same time is just so cool to me. Like I loved that. I mean, what was your take on that dynamic?
I'm echoing everything you say. I at times felt like Maxine sort of was a bit of a dreamy idealist character.
Sure.
Everyone kept saying she's got the X factor, but she was also very much like, I want to be a star. I'm ready to be a star. And it felt like these like small town girl, like big dreams of living in the big city on the billboard. And so, you know, to your point of like any sort of sequel to this with Maxine, like I would love to see it all spiral opposite and go the Pearl route. Like that would be fantastic.
I don't want to see that.
You don't want it, but welcome to horror, baby. That's what it is. So
I know, but
I think it'd be great.
I think the thing that separates the two, I really think this is the defining factor that separates the two, is that Maxine does have it. Yes, she has big dreams. She has big ambitions. She is working with a small town cast. However, the fact that her singular sex scene is the thing that Lorraine then completely changes her viewpoint on what's happening, where she goes, like she's seen Bobby Lynn and Jackson have sex in this. She's like, hey, wait, this might be a movie.
Art.
And I think that's the thing that shows you, and the fact that Bobby Lynn, who is also like, she's a very sex positive, very obviously she's working in the sex industry, is like, oh, damn girl, good job. I think shows you that like it's not just this hokey like she may I don't know, maybe she'll have it. I think she does have whatever it is, and everyone's telling her, is indicating that that's the case. And I think that's the thing that separates the two characters. So wherever this moves forward, I don't know, but it would be a backtrack to me to have her replicate the same route as Pearl, where Pearl's very definitively a character who didn't have her dreams accomplished, who didn't have the X factor, who didn't have what it takes, and Maxine does.
So maybe the parallel comes from what would you do to achieve those goals, right? Like that might be the fun exploration in Maxine's character. Like, how far will she go to accomplish her goals? Just the same as like Pearl, where she's like, you know, she's past her prime, but she's desperately clinging to it, and she's gonna fight for it till the end. So that could be pretty fun in a sequel. You know, a character that like just confused me by the amount of screen time. I didn't understand Sheriff Dentler. Like, why does he even have dialogue? It felt,
because you've got to have the Texas Chainsaw bookending. You got to have the Texas Chainsaw bookending, which is, there's such a clear homage to it, and I think he simply is the bookend to each side. I actually thought the person you were going to ask who had so much screen time was the pastor. That's what I thought you were going to say, but I get what you're saying.
So I appreciate the homage to Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Kind of like going down into the basement in the beginning, the sheriff's like, you got to see this. And, I was literally expecting the chainsaw to come out at the end, right? Like, oh my God, they get attacked, right? It was so reminiscent that I was expecting that, with finding the video recorder and everything. The pastor preacher guy, I thought that was a fantastic little twist at the end. Like, that's her father, the
repetition of the quotes.
Yeah, that was a fantastic moment.
Loved it.
And, so there's all of these like match cut moments in the film, which was a really great editing idea. And they start blurring the lines with the unique transitions of, instead of like cross dissolving, they're giving you like these hard back and forth cuts between the two scenes before transitioning to a scene, which was really inventive, really unique. I felt like would have been more successful if they avoided the split screen stuff.
Oh, I really liked that. I know it's on the nose, but I did like it. I'm not gonna lie.
It was one of those. Like it was one of these movies where I felt like if they just went a little more traditional and didn't push so hard on some of the style, like experiments, that it would have hit harder. And mostly with the split screen, I love the back and forth.
Yeah. Isn't that to RJ's point, though, of trying to do something like take a horror movie or take a porn movie and make it like elevated? And I think like there's a good commentary on that filmmaking and stuff. But I have to say that scene, especially where the split cuts, I felt like worked for me, were the scenes where they're doing the
during the like sex scenes
Fleetwood
and they're
Mac.
like moaning.
Wow, that hurt. That hurt for a second. I struggled with that. The Fleetwood Mac cover, which Brittany Snow, beautiful job, and I'm assuming Kid Cudi did the guitar, also beautiful job with that song, and Pearl wiping off her makeup after being like rebuffed by her husband. I thought was actually like my heart kind of sank a little bit. It was kind of like a little emotional. I actually really liked that
powerful
split
moment, but again, just match cutting, you can get there without the split screen. You don't have to do the split screen.
I liked it, but fair.
It was a little like too overt.
Okay.
And
sure.
And where like it first confused me was when they started doing these like transitions with like a wipe across the screen to a split screen. It just was a little jarring. And if the idea of editing is to be subconscious and not distract from the movie and not pull you out of the movie, it did not achieve that, right? I think they could have
do pull you out. I agree.
Yeah, all of a sudden you're like, I'm watching a movie and this is a stylistic choice. The back and forthness could have gotten away with it. Like it was enough, but not too much.
What was your thought on the opening shot? I'm so curious your shot on the fake aspect ratio shot, because I actually dug it. I didn't know what you thought, though, as a filmmaker. It was
cinematic brilliance. I thought
the
two best pieces of this flick are the camera and the acting. I think the camera and acting nailed it. I thought
give it to the effects.
Was experimental. The effects, we'll get there. All right, camera. Always love mixed media use. If you're gonna have these vintage like porn scenes, use freaking 8mm. I can't remember what camera they used, but I know they shot this like 6 or 8K on like an Arri Alexa, so it was perfect camera for this.
Walk
You're
us
shooting
through that
low
opening
budget
shot
outside.
though too, because you're gonna set it up better.
Right. So
I
opening
could.
shot is there's so many great things about it. It starts interior barn, and the barn doors are framing the shot, which is basically silhouetting the frame.
Did you not think it was going to be shot in that aspect ratio? I did.
No, I kind of knew it was going there.
I'm dumber than you.
I pretty early recognized. It's just a camera thing I've seen before, but it's very great use of it. So they shoot it like it looks like a 1:1 aspect ratio, and you see the silhouette. It's not. So it is a 16:9. Well, it's not even 16:9. They actually shot this like an IMAX ratio, which is a very strange ratio. 1.9 to 1. So it's like, it's kind of a large format, which I was a little curious why they did that. Maybe for some sort of distribution purposes. But so anyways, it's like framed by these barn doors. It's a slow dolly push in. Slower, you sluts. I love slow dolly pushes. The slower, the better.
Yes, it was so good.
And the brilliance of it is like cop car pulls up. So you're like, oh, something's happening. And then as you push through the barn doors, it reveals like, oh, this isn't a 1:1 aspect ratio. You're in like roughly 16:9, 2:1, we'll call it. And it reveals like additional cop cars. So something's like clearly been going down. The reveal of the cop cars I thought was great.
So good. And
then all of a sudden you're in like this wider aspect ratio. I actually really like this aspect ratio, like 1.9 to 1. I immediately saw it as like strange, and I somehow loved it.
I'm obsessed.
So all of a sudden you like brought into this like almost Western like film look, not
yes,
anamorphic,
oh my God, yes.
But wide. You're on the ranch. You're in the movie all of a sudden, and then playing back and forth with the mixed media is just fun.
It was so much fun. And what did you think of RJ's avant-garde porn shoot? I actually thought his camera angles were pretty decent, in my opinion.
Hey, he had some good stuff. I called the whole like gasoline pump dick move
but I love
before
that
it was called on screen.
Bobby is the one to tell him that. I like, because I think that also just solidifies her character as not like an idiot. Like she's like, look, I know what's gonna look sexy. Here's what's up, and I love that.
Yeah. I think that he's cool. A fun. I think RJ's a fun character, for a filmmaker because
just ask you
you're always
him.
like trying to. Even when you're on these like crappy jobs, like I've not shot porn, but I feel like if I ever had to, it'd be like, let's go cinematic, like let's make this as pretty as we can.
Sure.
Like, you're so desperately trying to like make it however you can. So he's like very relatable for a filmmaker. We've all been on these crappy shoots. That's what I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you about actually, because I feel like RJ is very much like. A lot of the things he says, a lot of things he does are very motivated by, I assume, Ty West and his feelings about filmmaking and stuff. So I wanted to actually ask you about that in terms of how much did RJ to you were you like, yes, that's relatable, or how much of it didn't feel natural or whatever? Because the vibe I kind of got was that was Ty West's kind of manifestation of like, this is how I feel about filmmaking. So I was curious, as a filmmaker, what did you think of RJ?
It's funny. He's so relatable because
I love that.
I've been in situations that he's sort of experiencing. And I'm not talking about like being on a porn set, but what I'm saying is,
oh, really?
Is like, no, like I've used my girlfriend to help out with, making films, right? And and like in scenes where you're like. Well, hey, this is like potentially a kissing scene. How should we navigate this? Is it a kiss on the lips? Is it a kiss on the cheek? I don't know. What am I comfortable with? What is she comfortable with, right? We have to like navigate these weird boundaries that some people don't have to find themselves in, and also like, what are you willing to do in terms of like making it? Like I've been on low indie films where you get creative freedom because you're a one-man band, but you don't have the resources, so it is fun.
Less to lose, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. A lot to gain, less to lose. So it's super fun and relatable, I felt like.
I think he did run good commentary throughout in terms of like, again, that kind of filmmaker perspective, which was like a pretty cool aspect and something I just want to touch on very briefly. But before we move on to some of the bigger themes, is that like I love that we now live in a world where intimacy coordinators are a full part of a set, and apparently
that is very appreciated. Yeah.
Yes, everyone apparently felt extremely comfortable in what they were filming and shooting, and I just want to give mad props to everybody involved in that aspect because that's a super fucking important thing, and just especially when you're working with like a film that's like covering adult film topics like and shooting sex scenes and stuff. So I'm really happy that we're living in an age where everybody is nice, comfy, and cozy doing these scenes and doesn't feel like they're like put in an uncomfortable position. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I was really happy that they had a coordinator for that.
Yeah, definitely. I did not know that, and I resonate with that. As like someone that's been on student films and small indie films, you're like, you don't have that person there, so you're trying to navigate yourself as director, producer. You're trying to figure out like what's okay, what's not okay, and make sure everyone's comfortable while still trying to push the boundaries of the film. So you're in a very like sticky predicament.
Precarious.
Something that's
sure.
also interesting, precarious. That's a great word. Is it's also a low budget film itself. X is a low budget film.
Which is shocking, by the way. Shocking for
filming a
variety
story
of
about
reasons.
low budget filmmakers. So what's brilliant about it is it's like a self-criticism of like you're using a single location. You're using largely natural light. I think it looked like most of the light was reflected light that was being used. And then they're shooting on an Arri Alexa, so it's got like 17 stops of dynamic range. So it means like you can get away without like cleanly lit scenes. Was there anything else about like this being a low budget film that jumped out to you? Because it did not occur to me. I just
couldn't even, when you told me the number, I was genuinely shocked because first of all, I think this cast is pretty stacked where I would expect that number to be significantly higher just based on the cast alone. Like
they must have got some serious royalties out of it. I don't know.
Cudi, Jenna Ortega, you got Mia Goth, you got like
I guess they're raking it in, so they're like, let's do something for us. I don't know.
I will say it seemed like everyone was very stoked to be involved, which is always a bonus because I feel like a lot of the times when you have to rely on that, the film is not usually good. So it's pretty solid that everyone's like, we loved it and it's a good movie. So that's just like kind of a bonus. But practical effects wise too, just again, shocked that that was their budget because the effects were fucking great. Like, so when RJ is
really good.
Stabbed, that's already a very solid effect of that because she jabs him right in the neck. And so it's a pretty significant like blood splatter when she pulls it out. Yes. But then when she hits it again and he falls down and again and again and again and again, and where his head is almost decapitated is pretty insane to me. Jenna Ortega's fingers being busted by the butt of the gun.
Yes.
There's multiple good effects where I am shocked that they came in at that budget then because they looked excellent.
And the alligator, like the graphic of the alligator following
Maxine,
it was Maxine, swimming.
Love it.
It looked really clean and solid. She's gonna get out, so it was honestly, it was one of the more suspenseful moments. Like,
which is funny, isn't it? Because you knew she was going to be fine. It's like, oh my God.
It's too early in the film for her to go, right? Mm-hmm. But it sets it up for later. I want to go back to RJ's death because what a brilliant moment of like the blood splattering on the lights and then bathing this scene in red light is very creative use of light.
It was also really shocking, didn't you feel like? It was so abrupt to me, at least, where I was like, holy shit. And, like, the severity of it as well. Like, it is just stab after stab after stab after stab.
It was a moment where I felt, again, they sort of went a little too far with the idea where, like, some blood splatter over one light or like a little bit on both to just make it a little redder.
Though. Yeah.
I know, but it's like, come
factory.
On, like they just kept going with it and like splashing the front of the truck with blood. It felt excessive in a way that drew me out of the movie.
All right,
like
fair.
I get you want this like red scene and it's a cool idea. Just let's go a little more subtle with it. It doesn't have to be that aggressive. That my small note there, but
for sure,
I
just
do
fingers. Like how I've said it. I hate seeing a hand fucked up, which is like a Mike Flanagan specialty. And every time I watch his movies, I'm like, that motherfucker's gonna fuck up a hand, and I'm gonna hate it. It is such a. It's so simple though, and that's what I like so much about it, is it's so simple. Like getting your hand mashed by the butt of a gun is a very simple thing compared to like nearly getting decapitated. Like that's a very simple effect, but it's so effective because we can all feel that. Like everyone can feel that.
So that's what I want to know, though. Is it actually that simple of an effect? Because you have bone, you have muscle, and you have blood, and you have multiple. No, I mean, so
yeah, you're right. In terms of the practicality,
it feels like less substantial on screen because it's just a hand instead of a whole head.
Yes, and it's quick. It's a quick shot difficult. Too. Yeah.
Oh, but it sells so good. It's just gnarled and. Just you feel it. You feel it.
Well, and she sells it too, and that shouldn't be a surprise because her opening of Scream, where she got like fucking stabbed through the hand and her like leg broken, that bitch can sell a scene. Like there's no question about her Scream queen quality. Like Jenna Ortega is killing it this year. I'm even hoping in the next movie she kind of moves into the final girl status because I genuinely believe she's better than Melissa Beretta. That's just my opinion, but like I know I said it. Sorry, I shaded Sam. I did, but she's
I think most
so good though.
Might agree. Yeah,
she's so good though, and it's so funny for her to go out in such a way that's so abrupt. But I think that's what I really like about it is that it's like. She books it for the door like you would expect most horror people to do. And you're like, oh, smart move. And then it's like, bam, she's gone. Like in a minute.
So let's go to best deaths here. Because there were some very abrupt deaths that didn't feel warranted. You know, like
really. None of them feel warranted. None of them feel warranted in a way because you kind of like every character, and I think that's like good story building.
Yeah, I get that. They were just abrupt. I guess it's just like. Happened fast. You just wanted it to be a little more of a struggle to like root for them a little longer. I don't know.
I don't want to like personally. I love Jackson and I was bummed when he got shot. And so for me, do I want that drawn out? I actually don't because I really liked him as a person. Like this is the thing that I think again separates this from a lot of horror films. Every character is fundamentally, I think, a nice person actually. Like he tries to connect with Howard with
Howard's a stand-up dude,
with the army way. Like he tries to connect with him and help him out. Like, and Bobby is the same way. Like, okay, you could write off Bobby as this blonde idiot, but she's not. Like she knows how the sex industry works and she knows what camera angles work and she wants to help Pearl when she thinks she's in distress. Like, she actually actively tries to help her. Like, they're nice people. So I think for me, I don't want to see their death like this prolonged event where, like, when you get a character you hate, you kind of want to see, like, the full extent of it. Like, so for me, it can feel very abrupt. But, like, how much more do you actually want to see of a character you like get killed? Do you know what I mean?
Well, it's a horror film. We all like a little gore.
Give the audience what they want, right? They say it in the movie.
Yeah, come on. Let them, like, go crawling away screaming in pain. Like, that's what we're here for at the end of the day.
But they're so nice. I don't want to see it. So Jackson getting abruptly killed in a way is kind of like a mercy kill, in my opinion, where I'm happy that, like, his eyes weren't ripped out of his head or some shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm happy that he didn't have a prolonged death. But I feel you. It can feel abrupt in that sense, though.
We'll start with my least favorite death.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I went way off topic there. Go ahead.
No, totally.
I veered.
Warranted. No, totally allowed. Least favorite death was pitchfork to the eyes. That was stupid.
I have to agree.
Yeah.
It's not that, like, the actual eye popping out I like the juxtaposition they had with the sound design, especially where it was like he gets hit and it's quiet, and then you move to the to Jenna Ortega getting locked in, and then you pop back to that moment and you get the
jump cut. The best jump scare of the movie was cutting back to him.
Yes, very clever.
Damn it.
Very clever, but I agree.
I gotta give it to
them. The death is not good. The death is, generally speaking, not good. The jump cut excellent, but the actual, like, logistically speaking,
yes.
who, like, that, what would need to happen to make that work?
Holes
like, no.
Through the hole.
Yeah, that's dumb.
And then he's got to
agree.
Yeah, it was just like, and it was obviously coming, you know, no one thought it was a surprise.
Sure. No.
That was probably the worst. I think the second worst, in my opinion, would be the gator death.
Oh no, I liked it.
I thought it looked very good. It was well done, but just kind of silly. Like, okay, so you fall in the water and a second later a gator's eating you. Like, it just felt a little bit too convenient. You know, and like splish splash, you can hide all of the like practical effects with water and make it look good. So it didn't seem like much effort was involved, perhaps. So it was just not a death I was super excited about.
I do think what's fun about that one is it's foreshadowed, obviously, with the gator following next scene. It's clearly foreshadowed. And actually, I should say every death is foreshadowed well early into the movie. Like, everybody's death, they say it at some point. So,
whoa, you might have to walk me through this.
So, okay, so, yeah, let's go through it. We'll go through each one, but let's get to Bobby's first. So, Bobby walks through, she opens the door to the gator pulling on the girl's swimsuit bottom, much like the suntan kind of homage there that they have on the side of the building. So that foreshadows her death right away. Martin Henderson's character says their eyes are going to pop out of their skull, which is where he loses his eyes. RJ talks a lot about Psycho, and he takes a shower and subsequently is killed by an elderly woman. Jackson talks about being in the war and being hunted by farmers back in the day, which is exactly what happens to him in the end. Who am I missing? I'm clear. Oh, Howard talks about worrying about his heart going out, which is exactly what happens to him. I swear I'm missing. Am I missing someone? No, RJ is the Psycho type.
Oh, sorry.
Kill. Who am I missing? And Howard talks about Pearl breaking her hip, which is exactly what happens to her. And then
what about Jenna Ortega?
Hers is that they call her perpetually quiet throughout the whole thing, and at the end, she's told to shut the fuck up.
She opens her mouth.
She opens her mouth and won't shut up, and that's what ends up getting her killed because she screams and runs to the front door, which is where she gets murdered. So I love the thought that went into all of the foreshadowing for every character. Like, you have to give it so much credit for that. Like, it's all
that's great
out
screenwriting.
There.
Yeah,
it totally is, and so good.
Characters and screenwriting are so intertwined, and it just hit on all levels. The writing was great. The characters brought it to life. Nothing.
And
felt
again, they're
forced about the characters.
Likable. Likable to a degree. Because even Pearl and Howard, again, there's like a motivation for what they're doing, and it's not good, but like it's at least like somewhat relatable in that, again, we're
understandable.
We're all gonna age, you know, and they don't help the situation by calling them old timers, saying like, well, my grandma used to blah, blah, blah. Like that perpetually throwing the age in their face kind of thing doesn't help the situation either. But no one feels mean, I guess is what I'm saying. No one feels mean-spirited like I think a lot of shitty horror movies do. Oh, who do you think is mean?
I mean, mean-spirited, like the old couple, like, it's like not like mean-spirited, but like, you know, Jesus, you really let yourself go there on all levels.
Yes, but also like they're worn down not just by age, but by time and the dynamics and the viewpoints that they have that no longer resonate in this world, and where they feel completely outside of what's happening, and you're literally watching like youth before your eyes and the ideals that are completely separated from yours before your eyes, and then being chastised for your viewpoints, and you can kind of see where they've been hardened and disillusioned and where they're doing what they're doing. And again, not excusable by any means. Like, I don't think keeping a sex slave is anything that anybody should be doing, but like, you at least understand where they're coming from to a degree.
All right, I don't think I can argue with you on that one.
Wait, shit, I don't even think we got to best death. We went on a tangent there.
Oh, we just said worst deaths.
I know, we just said worst. What was the best?
All right, I have my favorite. I know mine.
All right. Tell me yours first. I'll tell you mine.
Old Mother Pearl going down.
Oh, I love it. Okay.
Yeah, RJ's is pretty dang close. I just like the satisfaction of squishing someone's head with a car tire. That's a fun on-screen death. And I think she
sells it by being such an asshole too, and being like, you're a whore, and you're like, you're a whore. What are you talking about? Like, you're keeping sex slaves. Like, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like, I agree. It was very, very satisfying to see that head crunch and a double tap. Like, I was like, not only did she squish her head like a watermelon, she win again. Like, that was very solid.
And yours, Taylor.
Honestly, they all have merit to a degree. They all have like good merit. I think I said I don't think I said it, but Jackson's is probably my least favorite in the sense of like, it's very abrupt, but it also is like just kind of a bummer kill. So you're like, wah to both of those things. Where I feel like both Pearl and RJ are good ones. I like RJ's for the abruptness and the change in tone. I really like that. But I also really like Pearl's because, like you said, it's a very satisfactory kill, a very earned kill. And that one feels really good. It's funny. I think Jenna Ortega's a really funny one, too, because now I think we'd see Jenna Ortega as the Scream Queen. So to see her taken out so abruptly is pretty shocking, to be honest. Like, you're like, oh, wow, she just got, her face got blown up. That's shocking.
This came out well before Wednesday, right? Wednesday's pretty new.
It came out before Wednesday, but it came out after Scream. So she had already kind of solidified that she is going to be in this genre, and after You. So she had already done 2 horror forays at that point, but not, you're good. She's not quite to the status she is now. I don't think we're probably going to see her get killed in that capacity again. That's probably not going to happen. Aspect I was kind of interested on the male take on was, what did you think of RJ's response to Lorraine wanting to do the movie? That was one that I think is an interesting point where you can kind of come at it from multiple perspectives, but I was kind of curious what your view on it was.
Whoa, interesting question to get a male perspective on that. Because I feel like it's more relatable to like think about RJ's perspective, right? So
it's complex in my opinion, but
yeah. No, my initial reaction was like, good on you, like fuck the status quo. You were seemed like you're sort of forced into this like awkward position of like being the boom operator, sound recorder for this film that maybe you didn't
He's
know
the director,
everything
though,
about.
as well.
Sure. So, like, but she didn't seem to, like, be completely aware of, like, really what it was going to be like. And maybe a part of that's just, like, a little ignorance about, like, I don't know, I'm just there to, like, record some audio for this film my boyfriend's doing, So, in your youth, you're like exploring and trying to like decide what is right, what's upside down, and I'm all for that decision. Is it a little bit of a fuck you to her boyfriend? Possibly, but rightfully so. And does her boyfriend react in an appropriate way, I think a lot of guys would react that way, you know? Like, allow it to happen, feel a little bit of pressure to allow it, and then run away out of frustration. It's all very human, very instinctual, I think.
Yeah, I think what I like about that is that I think there's a lot of discussion in terms of like him relegating Maxine and Bobby to these horror type positions and relegating Lorraine to the Madonna type and that male perspective. But then I think what makes it more complicated than just this guy who's being very sexist per se, like of a girlfriend or a person who's trying to be sexually liberated, is that like he is put in a really awkward and kind of horrifying position, because I don't think many of us would be on the side of being very comfortable with having our significant other have sex with someone else. And so what I like about that is just it's so much more complicated, and he's not just a dick, but the problem is he puts his foot in his fucking mouth big time by like relegating again them to being the horror types, which is where you get Wayne coming in being like, no. Like, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, he does it to himself, right? It's
right.
Like, he's the one filming it, and he's like, it's just a movie. It's just acting. Yes, and then she's like, okay, it's just acting. I want to try. And then I
want to do it, yeah.
And then all of a sudden he's like, well, they're horrors. And Wayne's all like, excuse me? Check yourself.
Totally. And I think he even knows that was the wrong. I think it's very in his acting, which again, just good acting, is that like face of being like, that's not, I didn't mean to say that. I said that, but that's not like what I'm thinking. And what I like is his character, again, so much like Wayne, could have been so just one dimensional and been like, I'm the director, my girlfriend's Madonna type, blah, 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 blah. But that they really try to give it depth. And I think that's what I so appreciate about every character, is that there is so much more than the surface offers, and that they all have complex emotions into what they're doing and the way they feel about things. And I just love good writing like that. I respect that so much in a horror movie.
Yeah, it hits on every level.
I think that kind of brings us, as we've gotten, there's so much to explore, to be honest, in this movie, and there's so much more than we could even possibly feasibly cover in this episode. But I think that kind of brings us to our last two kind of sections here, which might be like the end of this movie and where we think this franchise might move forward from where it is. And I guess for me, the end, obviously this whole movie is like a huge homage to Texas Chainsaw, but the thing I love so much about this movie is it never feels unearned, and it never replicates shot for shot kind of a thing. You get a lot of similarities, like you get them in the van at the beginning, and you get the shots of the farmhouse,
the sheriff's
and there's
walking down in the basement.
Yeah, the basement, the cops
Found
at the beginning, like there's
stuff.
all this stuff. So there's all these very blatant homages, but never in a way that feels unearned. Like they when we get to those shots, I just go, yes, like where I know it did a good job of getting there, getting the feeling, but also being more nuanced with like 2022 and like, you know, where we are in life. And I really appreciate that. I mean, what did you think of the whole wraparound plus the kind of Maxine revelation? What was that kind of ending like for you?
Satisfactory, in a word.
For sure.
To me, it's a movie that was extremely well thought through on every single level. I'm extremely impressed what they could do on $1 million budget. I think a lot of that came from, you know, one location, limited lighting. You know, they probably shot this in, you know, a shortened amount of time, spent some money on effects. So I'm impressed from a filmmaker's perspective about what they were able to accomplish. And at the end of the day, story. The story nailed it. So much so that it warranted a sequel, a prequel.
Sequel.
Yeah, I think we'll, sequel is coming. Am I wrong? Or yeah.
Yes.
So,
yeah. This year. Yes. Max.
Yeah.
Max.
Right.
Triple X.
So it's exciting, to see someone like knock it out of the park like that, and they really did. And I appreciate like going out on the limb and trying some experimental things. Having not watched the prequel, I've seen the opening shot because of the trailer, which is super awesome that they opened the film the same way.
Yes.
Yeah,
so
so I want to do a comparison here. I would be surprised if they didn't open the sequel the same way. So there's like clearly a discipline of filmmaking here that is to be respected and appreciated. That's all I gotta say.
I fucking love Ty West is what I have to. I fucking love Ty West. I love The Innkeepers. I was obsessed with House of the Devil when it came out. It has all the hallmarks of the 70s kind of culty devil type films that you would have had back in the time. And I think he was able to accomplish the same thing here, but with the slasher kind of like narrative. I think he clearly is somebody who respects and understands horror films, but is able to take that and kind of build on that in a way that's better for modern audiences. Like I said, every character is very fucking fleshed out. You're very not happy when they die. And I think that's, again, a very big credit. Like, you don't want to see any of these characters go. And when you can make sympathetic villains as well in the midst of making likable protagonists who are going, I think you've done an exceptional job. That you can kind of like sympathize with every character. You've killed it, in my opinion. I love the references to Texas Chainsaw. I love the overtness of talking about Psycho and literally integrating that conversation into your film by having, by having RJ be like, the middle of the film is the turning point. And that's exactly what happens in this movie. We spend a good 45 minutes just with the characters before any death happens. And I think that's so smart. Again, this is a movie that really lends itself to multiple rewatchings. I just think the book ending of the opening and closing, the revelation that Maxine has come from this very strict family, and that, she's going out there and making the life she deserves, quote unquote. Like, I think is so cool. It's just a fun movie. The prequel, I highly recommend, having just watched it. I really fucking enjoyed it. I think I like X a little bit more because it's more slasher specific, but I would say Pearl is definitely worth a watch and gives you a lot of context for honestly for both characters and why they do what they do and the motivations that they feel. And I'm really stoked to see where the hell this is going to go. I'm hoping that my personal hope is that we're not turning Max into Pearl 2.0, because I feel like we've kind of done that. It'd be a little contrived, in my opinion.
That would be my hope, but too. I also... That they run with her character in a different way.
Yeah, I trust Ty West at this point enough, though, that he knows these characters, that he's going to bring it to a very different place and something that we're not anticipating, which is like what I'm hoping for. But yeah, this was a great fucking movie. This was so much fun. I love how complicated this movie is and how much you get out of it after rewatch after rewatch. So yeah, that's kind of that was a whole encompassing final thoughts thing. What are your last wrap up thoughts?
For those listening, I got a shit-eating grin over here because everything you said is spot on. So I'm looking forward to Maxine, and I'm probably going to watch Pearl tonight. And
you're going to have to text me.
That we can review Pearl in the near future.
Soon,
at least give you some little ancillary social media context there. But everyone, thank you so much again for tuning in. If you haven't figured it out by now, go watch X. This is a fun film.
And Pearl. Watch X and Pearl. I highly recommend both.
And Pearl. And
fun for the
a
whole
question
family.
for you. Yeah. Would it be worth watching Pearl first or watch X and then Pearl?
You know, I'm always like a sucker for going chronological, but I have to say it was kind of fun to go back after this and to see the end of a person and then kind of see the beginnings.
It feels like
really
it would be appropriate.
Cool.
Yeah.
I actually really dug that, and I would not typically say that, but I actually really enjoyed going back to that and being like, what? Oh, but now I want to watch X again is the thing. So now maybe I do want to watch it in order. I don't know. I say watch it as it came out. Then if you're interested, maybe rewatch it in chronological is what I would say.
I love it. Watch it whenever order you want. Don't listen to us. At the end of the day, we're just having fun.
No, but next week, not next week, sorry, 2 weeks from now, lies I tell. 2 weeks from now, this is a movie. I cannot preface enough by saying this. Watch the fucking movie if you haven't, because we are going to cover my absolute top tier favorite movie. Favorite horror movie, favorite movie. It's in my top 5 regardless. We are doing John Carpenter's The Thing. And I swear to you, there is no way that we could ever cover it doing it justice. If you have not watched the movie, please, for the love of God, watch this movie before we talk about it.
And this is also going to be the
good.
first review where I actually don't say anything. I just press the record button and let Taylor talk because it is her favorite. And every time we talk about any horror film, somehow she weaves in the things. So I think it'll be a fun conversation.
I find a way to get John Carpenter involved. Again, though, I cannot stress enough, this is a movie you should watch ahead of time. We will obviously, we're still going to do our format. We're still going to do the spoiler-free. We'll give you the plot summary, but we cannot do the effects justice. Please watch this movie before we cover it. And as always, if you have any suggestions for cocktails, for movies, for whatever, send it to podunderyourbed@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram is primarily what we utilize. We do have a Facebook. We do have a Twitter account. We don't really use it though.
I don't know if we do anymore.
It fundamentally exists. We don't use it though. So please hit us up on Instagram, hit us up on Gmail. We would love suggestions. We would love to cover new shit, cocktails, whatever. If you've got fun facts about movies, we'd love to integrate it into our stuff. So hit us up, pod under your bed.
In the meantime, send us your best portal flicks. We'll see y'all later.
Bye, guys.